Gale Weeks. I really appreciate you being here. If you could unmute, and thank you for sharing tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Jerry. It's an honor and a privilege to be here, and I absolutely am delighted to share with everyone the transformations that this mushroom has done in our household. It's been absolutely phenomenal, and you'll soon hear why. I love hearing about the research that you've done and the practicing of functional medicine through the years with the mushrooms. My husband and I were a little bit more aloof about hearing about mushrooms because we both come from law enforcement families, and mushrooms were bad and smoking was bad and this was bad and all that stuff. And so we're like, mushrooms, oh no way, we would never touch something like that. And it saved my life. So it started when Pet Club was getting organized, and we had a beautiful husky, Zenta, and she was a rescue. And I'm sure that with the hearts of the people that are on this call, you have probably encountered some of that yourself, where you never quite know what you're getting into with a rescue. You don't know what their background is and what they've endured. So Zenta started, she was 14 and a half when all the medications that had been prescribed were kind of failing her. They never did any good for her. They just kind of dumbed her down. But things were really showing up strong for her, like clouded eyes. She couldn't see anymore. She was trained off leash, but I had to put her on a leash so that when I walked her, I could keep her from hitting the light poles. She was that blind. Her fur was coming out in chunks to the point where she had bald spots in her. Yes, huskies do shed, but she had bald spots. And then when we got to the point where her paw pads started peeling off, and I was freaking out because I was looking at paw pads on the floor, and the dog was already across the floor and blood following her. I took her to the vet. She did some biopsy samples, sent them away, said she has blah, 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 very long autoimmune name that just kept going I'd never had heard of. And she said, she has those 7 lumps on her underside, and certainly some of those are cancerous. I'm kind of afraid to disrupt those. And she's on all the medication really that we can give her. You could either put her down, relieve her of her miseries. She's been a good dog. You've given her a good life, or we can keep medicating her until her organs give out. And it probably will just be a few months. So, of course, we were devastated. We certainly weren't ready for that. We took her home, and we put her on our hospice care, which meant anything that Zenta loved, she got. And I put a post out on social media because we often have people in our home, and so many people knew her. And got a call from great friends. They happen to be Kurt and Kristen. You guys know of them. And they said, do you mind if we come over? We'd like to say goodbye to Zenta. Well, sure, of course. And we're very weepy and very tentative to Zenta. And they said, would you mind giving her these mushrooms? We're like, we're kind of weary about that, but she's on her last leg. And so if she likes them, and they're peanut butter flavored and she likes them, then she can have whatever she wants. She scarfed it down. She didn't need to be able to see to smell them, and she loved them. So we kept giving them to her. Within 4 days, Zenta, who we had 2 young huskies at the time, we still have those, and they were very young, and so they were just wrestling fluff balls all over the house. And so Zenta made her space behind the kitchen table so that they wouldn't bump into her because she was in so much pain. She had bridging of the spine. She couldn't bend her back at all, and we couldn't touch her on her back. We could only pet her around her neck. That was it. Otherwise, she would just wince with pain. And so Zenta, on day 4 of scarfing down these mushroom biscuits, jumped on the couch. She hadn't been there in well over a year. And Kurt calls for me. My husband's name is Kurt as well. Kurt hollers for me, and I come into the room. I'm lighting into him. What are you doing? Putting her on the couch? You know she can't get off of there by herself. It's going to cause her pain. He says, I didn't even do it. She got up here by herself. We couldn't believe it. 4 days. Now, she was getting a few biscuits and several biscuits a day because we were about through the bag, and she had an appointment within the next couple of days to be euthanized. So my Kurt calls Kurt Ludlow and says, what did you give my dog, and how do I get more of them? And as Kurt Ludlow says, I thought this guy was mad at me when he first said this. And so we got more, and Zenta got all the biscuits that she wanted. And she lived, I'll make a long story short, she lived a very happy, healthy life for another 4.5 years. She was almost 20 years old when she passed naturally. Most of those, all but 2 of those lumps that were the size of my fist on her underside just dissolved. I don't know what else to say. They just went away. They weren't drained. They weren't anything. They just went away. Her eyes completely cleared up. She had crystal blue eyes when she passed, and she no longer needed me to have her on a leash because she could see everything. So my husband and I started looking at each other, and we're like, are you thinking what I'm thinking? And I'm like, I suspect so. I had been diagnosed with and was being treated for majority of my life for 5 different autoimmune diseases. It started out, my first diagnosis was when I was 21 with hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's. Every time I would go in and ask to change my medication because it wasn't working, it would evolve into another diagnosis usually. I tried everything that was out there on the market. I had them compounded, pharmaceuticals compounded for me, taking them multiple times. I did everything I knew to do, and I'm a pretty healthy eater. I was doing all those things right and going to get my rest, all that stuff. And I never had the energy, always looking for, when can I take a nap? Where can I lay down? I was always tired, hair falling out in clumps, just not a happy camper, just kind of going through life on the surface, just trying to get by raising children and all the activities that they did. So we kind of petitioned the company, and others were doing the same, and said, can we get these for people? And of course, that's how the whole thing came to the United States to begin with, was they were being used for people. So eventually we got the capsules, and I started taking them. I was hoping, but not really expecting too much. I had more hope than I had expectation, I'll say. We knew that Zenta didn't know about a placebo. So what was happening for her was very, very real, very organic, natural. She felt it. We could see it in her. So my husband and I were taking them at the same time, and we get up every morning. Do you feel something? Do you feel different? What do you notice? And it was just our expectations. I think I slept better. I don't know, but I kind of usually do sleep good. What do you think is the mushrooms? And within a month, we knew that things were different. And here's why. I had all these autoimmune diseases. Now that I know all of the research that I've done through the years trying to find a way, I know that I've been sick since I was 14 years old. And for the first time, my husband and I were out gardening, working diligently in our yard, probably a 10-hour day. And usually when I'm fatigued, exhausted like that physically, I would kind of just go into a cocoon, and it could be weeks or months. I've been incapacitated for as much as 6 months at a time, not able to walk up the stairs in my house without stopping to rest a couple times. And that's not a big house, by the way. I don't live in a palace or a castle. And within a month, we had experienced this all day. And my husband wakes up the next day, and as he says, he starts feeling for me, I'm not over there. And he gets up and comes in the kitchen, and I'm cooking breakfast. And he was thinking, well, we're not going to church today. Guess I'm on my own because she's going to be sleeping. And here I was already cooking breakfast and ready to go. And he said, that has to be the mushrooms because this has never happened before. And so my husband's a massive researcher. He's researching everything. Why is this happening? How is this happening? How is this strain produced and extracted and all these different things? And then he's telling everybody about it, huge proponent. And then we get this clarity mushroom. You guys see that in the lineup on the website. And he's like, I need to find out what this really does. So he decided to start taking it because he had been diagnosed with and was taking massive amounts of insulin for diabetes. And when I say massive amounts, he was taking 60 to 80, sometimes 90 units a day. I think Dr. Jerry can attest to that's quite a bit. And he was overweight, and it was kind of in this free fall that what's going on? It's like you're just in this loop, like the doctors just say you're overweight, and you're overweight, and that's why you're diabetic, and you're a diabetic, and so of course you're going to be overweight kind of thing. It was just this weird cycle that was kind of expected in our society. So he learned in his research that there was something about this clarity mushroom that helped people lose weight and get their diabetes under control. So he started taking it religiously, and it got to be obnoxious because we'd just come through COVID. I packed on all kinds of pounds, as many of us did. Hopefully it was you weren't part of that. And every day he gets up and gets on the scale and goes, it's official, I've lost 5 pounds. It's official, I lost a pound last night. I'm like, for sleeping? That's crazy. And he ended up in 9 months, he lost 65 pounds. And he was taking 6 to 8 of those clarity mushrooms a day. And my husband no longer takes any insulin, no metformin, none of those things that nobody wants to take anyway. And he is absolutely just feels amazing, looks great. It's so refreshing to not see him having to inject himself. And I am a new person. Like I just turned 60 in January. I feel like I'm 16 years old. I missed feeling like this when I was 16 because I was already sick. I just didn't even know it. I still remember my mom saying when I was, 15, 16 years old, Gale, why are you taking a nap after school? Don't you want to go for a run? Because that was what I used to do. I'm like, no, I want to take a nap. And now I don't want to take a nap. I want to go for a run. And I do. And it feels absolutely amazing. I could not be happier or more grateful for Kurt and Kristen and sharing what they do. This message has transformed so many lives. And I'm so grateful to Pet Club 247 and the Enforce and the Clarity and the additional things that they keep adding on. And it's so organic and natural. There's needs and we use them. And thank you so much, Dr. Jerry, for having me on. And I hope we'll experiment and take.
Sorry, go ahead. It gave me goosebumps hearing your story. I love this because there are people that will be inspired by you, Gale, and change their life and help others change their life.